Hi, my name is Brian. I'm the founder of Perspectivity Consulting, the advanced communication and business presentation company. You have probably seen video number one. This is video number two. Number one dealt with the audience profile. It is a very effective tool that helps you focus on the audience and not on yourself, your company, your product, or your service. In this case, we're going to talk about too much information. Presentations lasting too long and people having far too much to say. As I mentioned briefly in the earlier video, this list that I'm putting together, it comes from about 20 years in technology companies globally in about 12 different countries. My last post, I had a team of about 30 people in 4 countries where we were doing global pre-sales, empowering and educating the 400 sales leaders on these new products that we had, or new companies and technologies that we had recently acquired in Silicon Valley, which is where I was living at the time. I also pursued the world championships in public speaking and Toastmasters, as well as now coaching CEOs in large and small companies on how to give advanced, high-stakes sales or business presentations. Today we're talking about having too much to say, right? You talk too much. Now, we all think it during the presentation, but no one says it, but it's a very popular problem, and we all know it. What we're going to do today is talk about the source of this problem, and I'll give you a solution to fix it. Before I do, I want to share this with you. When the quantity of information increases, the quality of learning actually decreases. Now, most people think if I just give them more information and share more stories and facts and data and charts, they'll get it, they'll understand it, they'll appreciate it. Not true. It's actually the exact opposite. If you want to enhance the quality of not only their experience, but also their learning, you want to reduce the amount of information that you're sharing with them, not increase it. Because if you increase it, the quality of learning will decrease just as fast as you increase the information. It is a fact of life. In fact, in my workshop, I have a very powerful demonstration that proves this very point. And it works time and time again. Why? Because humans have a very difficult, if not impossible, time absorbing excess information. We just can't do it. It's just a biological makeup. It's part of our biological makeup. We'll just drown in information and we'll just eventually shut down. So if you continue to increase the amount of information, the quality of learning will actually decrease. Now, I'll share with you 4 popular reasons why this problem exists in the first place, and that'll help you resolve it, because knowing the source of the problem is one of the primary causes that lead us to the solution. First, there's just too much information in the presentation to begin with. I mean, we just have too much to start with. And if you cram too much information in, you're going to run out of time, it's going to be meandering, and you're going to cause the audience to do 2 things: to disconnect and eventually to disengage. So you want to be cautious of this very popular problem of adding too much information to the presentation. Secondly, stories. We all know the power of story. They're very powerful sources. We posted a link on LinkedIn recently talking about this. It makes the information stick to the brain. It's a very powerful resource to use. The problem is most people add too much detail to the story. The only detail we need to add to the story is that which is relevant to the point that we're trying to make. So if we're making a point about some killer presentation we did and we landed this big sale, where the presentation was doesn't matter. Who the customer was doesn't really matter. Now the amount may be impressive. That may be some information you want to include. But make sure that whatever the point you're trying to make, you share information along the way in the story that leads them to that desired conclusion. It's very difficult to do because we all love our stories and we want to make sure that they get all the details. But guess what? They don't care. They just don't care. Next, we have these introductions, right? You notice the introduction I made? Hi, my name of the company, and then we get right into it on video 1, video 2. What I didn't do is this. Hi, thank you for watching. Welcome to this video. We are very grateful that you decided to join us today, and we're quite sure you're going to appreciate what we have to share with you today. In fact, if you pay attention, oh my gosh, we see it all the time, right? It's just a lot of meandering and rambling, and it adds no quality to the audience's learning. It doesn't enhance their learning in any way. None of what I just said is of any value to anyone in the audience. So you want to be careful with your introductions and make sure that they are sharp, pointed to the point, and once again, they benefit the audience and not yourself. Shorten the introductions and get right to the point. They'll love you for it. You see tons of YouTube videos out there, and most of them just burn several minutes in the introduction as opposed to just getting to the point. Whatever you have in the title of the video, get to that point within the next 15 to 30 seconds. And last, we have lack of preparation. This is one of the reasons why presentations last too long. They're meandering, and they'll eventually include too much information. Now, the speaker didn't intentionally the speaker didn't intend to add this extra information. It's due to their lack of preparation that they've done so. Because they're not prepared, they're not rehearsed, they ad-lib, they just add different ideas and thoughts come up right away, and they just share the thought because they're more nervous, because they're not prepared. One of the #1 reasons that most folks are nervous on stage is because they're not prepared and they fear failing, and since they're not prepared, chances of them failing are quite great. So what do? They add more information, they're nervous, they talk too much, the audience picks up on it, and they do those two things. They disconnect and they disengage. Now, here's a solution, one of a few solutions to this problem. That is, we must add a filter. We must add a filter to the information that we're sharing with our audience. Now, these colored dots represent all facts, figures, graphics, charts, illustrations, stories that we could come up with to convey a certain point or principle to our audience, right? It includes everything that we have to share with them on a particular topic. Here's what we must do as speakers and effective communicators. We must filter out the information and give them what? What's important to whom? The audience, not ourselves. We deem all of this important, right? This is what they deem important to them. So if we have a topic that is trying to get the audience to get to a particular outcome or a particular destination, share the information that drives the audience to that particular destination. Everything else should be filtered out. And I will tell you this is very difficult to do. In fact, if you look at most resumes, right, they're 3, 4, 2 pages long, whatever the case may be. And let's say the person is going up for a position in accounting, for example. He will put in painful detail on page #2 of his resume where he worked at a technology company working on software, or where he may have been working in construction when he first got out of school. What relevance does that have to this new employer that you're seeking? Is it important to that particular audience? All that information in your resume is important to you, and that's why most resumes look like this as opposed to looking like this. And presentations have the exact same problem. It's just too much information. We have to filter the information to the benefit of the audience and also to the benefit of yourselves, because you're going to be much more successful as a speaker as a result. Here's a quote I'll leave with you. It's a very powerful quote. I know it's hard to read. That's intentional because I want you to focus in and get it. It says this: perfection is achieved not when there's nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. So the more you take away, the more you filter the more information you filter from your presentation, the more effective the presentation is going to be. Remember, perfection is achieved not when nothing more is left to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. The primary objective is not to continue adding information to the presentation. It is to filter the information from the presentation that you just saw on the previous slide. Listen, if you could just take this one fact, this one quote that I just shared with you, it'll make a phenomenal difference in how you communicate and present. My name is Brian Williams. I'm the founder of Perspectivity Consulting.